Hello, I'm Brian Malloy, technical consultant for Zero Gravity. I'm also a bike shop owner. I've been a professional road cycling mechanic for the past 5 years. I've installed over 300 plus sets of Zero Gravity brakes, and we're here today to show you how to install a set of calipers. When you get your Zero Gravity brakes for the first time, do not squeeze them at the pad holders. You'll deform the spring. If you want to just check the actuation, put your finger on the barrel adjuster, put your thumb on the power cam, and go ahead and squeeze. Take your brakes out of the box for the first time, and you want to determine which is the front and which is the rear. The front brake, the center bolt is going to be longer. The back brake, the center bolt will be shorter. The back nuts will also be the same. The front one is longer, the rear one is shorter. The other way you can tell the difference between a front brake and a rear brake, the front brake, the power cam, and then also on the arm where the power cam is extra material to accommodate for the power cam. The rear brake will have a shorter cam and not extra material here. One of the most important things is to make sure that your pads are installed correctly. There is a left and a right pad. They are marked on the pads. There's also a forward-facing arrow on both pads to make sure that they're installed correctly. Basically, whenever installing any high-quality product, you want to make sure you have the highest quality tools. All the tools are sharp, all your surfaces are clean. So we're going to go ahead and install the caliper onto the fork first. Going to use a 5mm Allen wrench. I put a little bit of tie prep on the center bolt. That should help with any corrosion down the road. Once you get the back nut snug, we're going to pre-center the caliper. The best way to do that is you are going to put your thumb on the top of the barrel adjuster, use your forefinger to actuate the power cam, and you're just going to squeeze. That will center the brake on the rim. And just go ahead and snug the back nut. The most important part of the Zero Gravity brake is housing length. The best way to get the measurement is set the end of your housing into the barrel adjuster and just run it up your handlebar. Set it close to the hood. Depending on which hoods you're running will depend on where the housing is going to sit inside the hood. So get that set correctly. You want to have it so there's just a basic curve and it's not pushing to either one side or pulling to the other side. This is the most critical part, and a way that you can ensure that the housing is the correct length is take the housing out and it will barely meet the bottom of the barrel adjuster. Run a good curve. Don't have it bend too much because that affects cable drag. Run it up to your lever to where the point where it stops. Find a good length and cut it. You do need a ferrule on the end going into the barrel adjuster. Depending on which lever you're using, you might need one on the other end too. Install your cable. Insert the cable into the barrel adjuster. Whenever you're cutting your housing length, you want to make sure it follows the curvature of the bar. The housing should enter the barrel adjuster perpendicular to the ground. You don't want it too short. It will pull off the brake to one side. If it's too long, it will push the brake down to the other side. This is the most important step. Insert the housing with the ferrule on one end, and you're done. What you're going to do the first time you ever install one of these, go ahead and it's best to take the bolt and the washer all the way off. There is a relieved area on the washer where the cable will clamp. You're going to line up your cable into the power cam. You can just click it into place. There is actually a little recess there that will hold it. Take your bolt. Make sure that that flattened part of that washer is sitting in the correct location. And the best way to do this is actually to actuate the brake. You're going to squeeze the calipers. I know it's kind of hard to see, but you're going to pull up on the arm like we actuated earlier. And you're just going to snug it down. Best thing to do is squeeze your brake, put a little bit of pressure on the brake, and tighten the bolt. Once you've done that, you're going to pre-stretch your cable a little bit. The brake will probably not be center at this point. The best way to do that is you're going to take a 13mm box wrench, slide it right onto the spring nut, and this will actually just work like an old style caliper brake. You're just going to push to one side to move it to one side, push to the other side to move it to the other side. You're just going to center this up, Once you get it to a desired center location, hold the 13mm box wrench and tighten the 5mm. That's the install on the front brake. Now we're going to install the rear caliper. It's the same as the front, just install it into the frame. Make sure all your surfaces are clean. It's a 5mm Allen wrench. Install the back nut. Okay, now once you get the back nut where it's going to be pretty snug, we're going to do the same as you did at the front. We're going to kind of do a pre-centering. And how you do that is just put your thumb on the top of the barrel adjuster. You're going to actuate the cam, and that will center the brake on the rim and get the back nut just snug. Make sure that the cam latch is in the closed position. You don't want to set the brakes up with the open position as it won't work correctly. Now let's cut the front housing to length for the rear brake. Install one end of it into the stop of the frame. Follow it up to the handlebar. Get a good curve. Make sure it clears the two front housings. Measure where you need, and then you're going to cut any excess off. Make sure both of the ends of your housing are clear and the inside liner is clear. Going to install your ferrules. Pull the cable all the way through. Insert it into the stop in the frame. Now you're ready to do your rear piece of housing. Now let's cut the rear piece of housing for the rear brake. Make sure you have both your pads center on the rim, not too high or too low. You can use a 4mm Allen wrench to set the pad holder. Just make sure it's lined up on your rim. Make sure that the cam latch is closed. Set a little bit of extra on your barrel adjuster so it's unthreaded a little bit. First thing to do is set your piece of housing into the cable stop in the frame. This is the most crucial part. You don't want the cable to be too long, as it will push down on the arm on one side, or if it's too short, it will pull up on the arm on the other side. So just make sure your brake is center. To get a good cable housing length for the rear, you basically want to have it the same length as the bottom of the barrel adjuster. That will give you a good length. So find that measurement. Cut your housing. Make sure the ends are clear on the housing. I'm going to just round this out a little bit here. Put your ferrules on. And you will need two ferrules, one into the frame stop, one into the brake barrel adjuster. Insert your cable. Put the housing into the frame. Insert your cable into the brake. Now we're going to go ahead and clamp the cable back down into the clamp nut. And go ahead and pull tight. Tighten it down. That's it.